Kelly Shaefer.
How are you, Kurt?
Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on here, man.
My pleasure.
You are a bona fide rock star, dude.
Well, I think I've kind of aged myself into it, but no, I've worked hard for.
No, but we're gonna take our viewers on a journey of your career, and they're gonna learn about all the countries you go to. And you get ready to go on tour soon.
Yeah, we're going to South America.
And, some of the giant crowds you play in front of, man. Massive crowds.
Yeah, it's a underground kind of music, so it's not something that everybody knows about, So that's why people will probably be surprised at the level of attention it gets globally as opposed to locally.
So would you classify it as metal? Would you say death metal? Like, what's the proper terminology for your style of music?
Well, everybody needs a classification, but our problem was that we didn't. I wrote lyrics that were about. Not about death, really, just about really interesting, different topics, nature and things like that. And so but our music is very angry. So if you hear it and you don't understand the lyrics, you may think that it's just all blood and guts. But
someone's got to put it in a box. To your point, right?
There are a lot of bands that do that. The shock factor was what we first were a part of. That was the first class of extreme metal. That's what I like to call it, is extreme metal, because it's not metal as you would think, like Motley Crue or Iron Maiden, even.
Right. Would you say that you were pioneers in that sense back then?
We were a part of a group of bands from Tampa, the Tampa death metal scene, but we were outcasts in that outcast scene because of the lyrical content. We weren't trying to be evil and bloody and trying to sort of have that horror movie theme. We were writing about beautiful things and the natures and the trees, but it was wrapped up in very violent music.
Well, it's fast and it's hard.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is great. Yeah. I mean, especially if you're like, for me, I said to you in the green room how I like to work out and listen to that kind of music.
Yeah. Oh, it's, I would imagine that works well in the gym.
But the funny thing is, though, you actually go on tour, and we were just talking about this, how in Germany, for an example, they love you guys, man. Yeah. And they love your music.
Yeah, they're tremendous. And Italy and just a lot of Europe, just a different kind of music fan over there. They still buy records. They still buy vinyl. They enjoy, they buy merchandise at the shows, but yeah, we've had a really amazing, the last couple of years even have been just really picking up for us, because this is our 35th anniversary this year of that Piece of Time record.
Isn't that crazy?
First record. Yeah. It's nuts, and this is all I've ever done. So and I've had a lot of journeys from the time that started to now, but this band now being, sort of legendary in our circles.
We're talking about the band Atheist.
Atheist, yes.
Okay. And people can actually go on iTunes and they can hear it.
Sure, Spotify, anywhere, yeah.
Yeah. I was listening to it on the way over here. And,
we have four records out in the time that we've been out, but there was a 17-year gap where we broke up, and I started another musical journey with Neurotica. And that was more locally acknowledged. Brian Johnson from AC/DC produced the first record. We signed with Vince McMahon's label and the WWE, and they started a record label called SmackDown, and just a lot of that was completely above ground, more in the pop world than I'd ever been in, because I'd been in the underground for so long. So that was a lot of fun. We got to play in Times Square at the WWE restaurant, and we went on tour with Ozzy for 2.5 months.
Oh yeah, that must have been fun.
Fun, yeah, man, the best 2.5 months of my life, probably. Just incredible time. 22, well, probably 30 bands total, but 22 on the second stage, and we were just living the life.
Well, that's what makes you incredibly interesting to me, is that you've met so many musicians of all types, and you've been in so many different countries, and you've played in front of millions and millions of fans.
It's a blessing, man.
And you're in Sarasota. You're a Sarasota guy.
Well, you're a musician.
You went to high school here locally.
Oh yeah, Sarasota High School, New Directions.
Isn't that crazy?
That was the alternative high school for all of us musicians and pot smokers back then.
So let's go back in time then. So you're a little kid. Yeah. Okay, what were you listening to?
Well, my dad was into Hendrix and Joplin, and my dad split when I was about 8, and he stayed in Ohio. Me and my mom and my sister moved down here. And then she sort of gathered around a bunch of colorful friends, bikers and stuff like that. So then I got into Black Sabbath and Alice Cooper and all that shit. So at a very young age, I was I'd heard all the good shit, you know what I mean? And jazz. My dad also used to play on long car rides. He used to play like really good jazz, like fusion jazz.
That's important you say that, because we're going to come to that, because we're going to talk about this death jazz.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed complexity in music. I love Rush. I love things that are played well, and I don't like knuckle dragging music. I like it to be exciting and different each time I listen. So I owe that a little bit to him, and then the just the wide range of bands that my mom's friends exposed me to set me up. But I really I didn't start playing guitar till I was 14, and I thought I was gonna be a surfer kid when I was like 12. because I was at the beach and I was hanging out with surfer kids, and so I was an artist all the time. So that was my first love was drawing and painting, and so I went to Booker VPA, which is an incredible performing arts school here in Sarasota, and auditioned to get in and got in. And once I got in there was a guy named Taylor who was playing guitar. They also had a music program at this school, and you basically had three classes, and then the rest of the day was art or whatever it was you were majoring in high school. So it was really, really cool. And but he would sit in the courtyard while we were painting, and he would play guitar. And my joke is always that nobody ever came to gather around me while I was painting. You know what I mean? But all the girls would gather around while he was playing Zeppelin and shit. And I was like, oh, I need to do that.
So that inspired you.
Yeah, very much. His name was
Tell us about your first band.
Well, the first band was Oblivion. That was our.
But did you ever do covers, or was it always originals?
No, we did covers, but we did very obscure covers of like old Metallica. We were into Metallica before anybody knew about Metallica. That was the beginnings of the underground bands like Exodus and Bay Area, San Francisco bands. Metallica, Exodus, Anthrax was the New York version of that, and all those bands are at the top of their game still right now. But that was our first introduction to music that was fast.
So you got exposed to that stuff at a young age, man.
Yeah.
And you just fell in love with it.
Yeah, and then I just was on this hunt for bands that sound like that, bands that are fast. Because there was, up until then, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest was pretty much the cap of metal, heavy metal, and it was really well played. Iron Maiden was a huge influence on me.
But very well produced.
Oh yeah,
and made the radio. Some of it.
Yeah, but Run to the Hills, I think. Or MTV used to be pretty generous with playing some Maiden and Judas. Judas Priest had a lot of radio.
And I know when Ozzy's solo stuff came out, it was pretty popular.
Yeah, so Ozzy was never. I never really considered Ozzy metal. Black Sabbath, 100%. But Ozzy was always more of Ozzy's just his own category, isn't he? You know what I mean?
Like I thought Randy Rhoads made that album.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of opinions about that. Bob Daisley wrote a lot of those lyrics, and he got pushed out of that project, and he wrote a lot of the stuff that Ozzy's singing. Randy absolutely changed the game for guitar players. I can remember around here downtown there used to be a club called the Playground South, and it's where the Sky Room used to be. The Sky.
Yes.
All right, so that place has been a venue since I was a little kid. So all the guitar players, bands, they would have bands there every week, and I just remember the influence that once Randy Rhoads started playing like that, everybody in town wanted to sound like that, but we didn't. We were still into early Metallica, which was, just way different than, and then Merciful Fate and weird bands like from Europe. We really liked that stuff that was not Ozzy. I've always had respect for Ozzy and love him from Sabbath especially, but we wanted it to be heavier and scarier. You know what I mean? And so that's how it started. And there wasn't many places for us to play around here. I mean, as a matter of fact, in that very room, we played a Battle of the Bands. You can appreciate this. We'd been a band maybe 6 months. We had like 7 songs, and they were very fast and very angry. And we got a call to fill in for a band that fell out of the Battle of the Bands. And so we played this Battle of the Bands. And there used to be a place in Sarasota called Electric Mountain Sound, and it used to look like all the old Sarasota people will know that place. It used to look like a mountain, and it was right there on 17th or 12th or something like that. And so that guy was putting this on. They were filming it and everything. And we played with a sort of a Gladys Knight and the Pips band, and then another band called Southern Steel, and right in the middle. And they called the police on us. And it's a true story. They were on the side of the stage like, stop.
But that's a good thing, though. That's good marketing.
Yeah, well,
maybe not then, but now it's like, wow.
Today it would have been a viral moment, that would have been cool, because then it would have been on film and somebody would have been like, that's bullshit. But yeah, I mean, they so much so, they were so terrified of us that the police actually helped us carry our gear out in the back side of that place. There's an alley. And so the next day, the Herald Tribune ran an article and had a picture, and it said, the band. I always remember the quotes. The band played without the benefit of chords, which I always thought was a fucking stupid thing to say. Like, what are you talking about? Without the benefit of, you're a bass player and you're a musician.
Sure.
I was just like, I don't even know what that means, but so then we went to go see the video. We went to that Electric Mountain Sound place, and we knocked, and it turns out the guy lived there as well as it being a recording studio. And there we were, leather jackets and, Doc Martens and just looking, very scary. And he was about to invite us into his home after going through that experience the night before. So those were fun in the beginning. So I guess what I'm getting at is it was terrifying for people, the stuff that we were doing. We used to have a warehouse over on 63rd and 17th in Bradenton, and that was like a nightclub for everybody under 18. So there would be 100 people in this warehouse, kind of like here, but with garage doors, garage door warehouse, and Crimson Glory played there, and we played there, practiced there.
Were you able to record there too?
No, we barely had good enough gear in the early days. So now Crimson Glory, are you familiar with them?
I've heard of them.
Oh my goodness. That's another band that's, they signed with Atlantic, toured with Metallica back in the day. They were like Queensryche, very, very much in the realm of Queensryche. And they were the first band to really get signed around here. And we worked together at a restaurant, me and the bass player. We have just a tremendous history with all those guys, and they're phenomenal. Like, you're going to love it. It's one of the best singers ever. He died about 7 years ago. His name was Midnight. Just, if you're into Queensryche, you will love Crimson Glory. It's like a little more progressive and tremendous vocals. But anyway, that was the scene. So we would pull in to go to practice 6 nights a week because we were teenage kids, and we wanted to smoke pot and play metal and just hang out. And we would write songs in front of people just sitting there because they could sit there and also smoke pot and drink and
sure.
and fraternize with each other. So it was almost like a nightclub, before we were all old enough to do that. And so those days were so much fun, and we hated not practicing. So almost every night we were there, and it was a 20 by 40, so we had it all decked out. We had couches and a stage, and it was just fun, to try to impress our friends.
Do you still have fans today that are those fans from that same
Absolutely.
era? Isn't that great?
I have a friend named Melvin out in Seattle who I'm going to see on tour in April, who was there in the very, very beginning. Yeah, I've known him for 40 years.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and he comes to the shows now, and we still are. We lost our bass player, Roger Patterson. Our original bass player lived in Bradenton, and on our first tour he crashed, and so he was very good friends with him, and so we just like to keep his memory alive.
That's great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So you're doing a lot of touring. So like, what's it like, man? You get on a plane, right? You guys all meet up, say like, you going to Buenos Aires. I think, is that your first show?
First show was in Santiago, Chile.
In Chile.
And
so
then,
like, you'll just meet there, and then you'll have someone will pick you up at the airport, right? Mm-hmm. You got a hotel.
Yeah.
Your gear is going to be shipped out in advance, right?
No, our gear is provided there. Backline,
Okay, gotcha.
The promoters there provide the backline, and because South America is a dangerous place to drive in, we have to fly everywhere. So we'll play in Santiago, and then we'll fly to Colombia, and then we'll fly to.
Is there a tour agent you have, like someone that's keeping all this going for you?
Yeah. There's a group of guys. There's a tour manager. There's 2 road techs. There's a merchandise person, and they're all from the area, and so they're like a touring company, and so they bring American bands down there because otherwise we would be terrified and lost,
right.
And also to interpret because we're silly Americans, and we're barely able to speak our own language. Much
so
less
when you play Chile, you'll be one of several bands.
Well, there's 2. We have another band that's playing with us from Canada called Cryptopsy.
Okay.
And we've toured with them. We did an American tour with them. And they've been around for 30 years. And so it's kind of a double bill. We're co-headlining it. And I hate playing last. Like, I will do anything to not play last. Like, that headlining position. Because, no matter how much fun you're having, everybody's got to go to work. Something's got to, you know what I mean? Like, so when you're on tour, the best spot is like the right before the headliner. Because now everybody's there. They're not too early, not too late. But so yeah, we're doing that. It's 10 shows, 4 in Mexico, and I think 6 in. You're doing Buenos Aires.
Are these going to be soccer stadiums? Like, are these
No.
big? Or are they smaller theater type of places?
Theater play, yeah, like theater style. Yeah. Now, when we play festivals, we just played in Mexico in May, and that was a huge soccer stadium. That was full.
I was going to ask you, what's the biggest crowd you've ever played in front of?
60,000 in Wacken, Germany. For the Wacken is probably one of the biggest heavy metal festivals in the world, and there's another one called Hellfest in France that was 40,000, and that was after it was stunning to play for that many people. I mean, we didn't even know that was the very first year after we had broken up for 17 years that we got back together and reunited, and that's what we
talk about a rush.
Holy shit! It was just I still.
How do you handle it though as a musician? Like, you're the first guy up there. They're the first guy they see. When you go up there with your mic and those people are all screaming your name or perhaps screaming the band's name, how do you handle that, man, personally? Like, just
with gratefulness, you know what I mean? I mean, you know how it is. I mean, I used to think, man, I hope I write a song that somebody I don't know likes. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's one thing if your mom digs it or your mom's friend, oh, I like that song you wrote, but in my mind, I was like, man, it must be so nice to write a song that other people like that don't even know you. You know what I mean? And that's that stupid early.
Well, I'm sure you get fan mail. You must have some people.
Well, no. What I'm saying is, so now to walk out and not only do they say atheist, but they say it differently in every country. So in France, they say atheist. So they'll go atheist and chant it.
All chant at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's gotta be cool.
It's crazy. And one great story about the first time we played and at that festival is the tour manager or the stage manager was like, as soon as you're done, off. Because, we're talking about 80 bands in 3 days. As soon as you're done, off. No, everybody off. And they had drums on wheels, and they would just wheel out another drum riser that was already set up and ready to go.
Put on the brakes.
So we got done, and I had, right before the end of the song, Piece of Time, I jumped into the crowd with my passport in my back pocket like an idiot. So I jump in, and I'm crowd, so I have a great picture of me.
Are you wireless when you perform on your mic?
Yeah, that show I was. Now I like to hold, because I played guitar and sang in the early days. So now I just sing. So I like to have something to hang on to because I'm a guitar player at heart. So
One last question: do you wear inners or do you choose the wedge?
I use the wedge, man. I'm exploring the new modern technology of these things because I can see, but I miss the sound of it. I love the ambience of it. The stage, even if sometimes it's bad, I don't really require a lot of monitors like some singers might be. My vocals are very harsh and I kind of know what timbre I need to be at. A lot of times.
What's the most important thing for you to hear live? The guitar?
Kick and a snare.
Your kick?
Kick and a snare. Yeah, kick and a snare, and I can pretty much roll through it.
The bass you're going to hear regardless whether you want to or not. It's going to be rough.
Yeah, and bass is very prominent in our music, which is also the thing that set us apart from a lot of the early bands and from that Tampa movement, that death metal movement. Roger Patterson's bass lines were very. Our music was.
They were complex.
Very, yeah, and because he was a huge Steve Harris, huge Geddy Lee fan.
And it was a cool sound too.
Sound. And it was it sounded. Yeah, he had a very lumbering sort of piano string sound. He had just and it was perfect. And he had
unique.
He also played with a lot of attack and all 4 fingers, which a lot of times you'll see bass players, they just, they get around with 2 fingers and they get around great. But he was grabbing bottom strings with his pinky, with tons of force, and
John Entwistle.
Yeah, when you really, just like drums are made to be hit. They're not, this shit is not how drums are meant to be. You got to smack them. You don't have to go crazy, but you got to smack a snare. But
his notes were clear and defined. You know what I'm saying? They weren't sloppy.
No. Thank you. We loved him, and he sort of set the stage for us because a lot of the stuff that he wrote was so difficult for us to play on guitar that we ended up creating the template of our band by everybody playing something different every now and then, meeting up in the middle for a heavy part and then scattering off. So it was orchestrated, where, strings and horns are all different, but it's all moving one piece of music, and so in the underground, that was kind of not, they didn't really like that. It took that. The reason we split for 17 years is because people didn't understand. It was too much for them. And so we found it difficult to tour with anybody. We went to Sweden and played with one of Sweden's biggest metal bands, Candlemass, and they were very much like Black Sabbath. So we were playing the super fast, crazy technical music, and then they were playing like Black Sabbath, very slow and doomy. But we got along great. We had a great tour, but it was just tough for us to find anybody to tour with until years later.
Because your sound was that unique at the time.
Yeah, and then as a result of that, when the internet came out, all these young musicians found that music, found those records that were no longer available, but people had put them up. And unbeknownst to us, the whole new 16. So when we went to Germany on that very first show, after 17 years of being apart, we thought, well, it's going to be a bunch of old guys, a bunch of guys in their late 30s or early 40s. And it was all kids. And they all, not only did they know it, but they were like trying to play it, and they were starting their own bands.
Very cool.
As a matter of fact, there's a band called, one of the bands that's really gone on and taken kind of what we did and taken it home was a band called Gojira, who just won a Grammy and just played at the Olympics. I don't know if you saw the Olympics, the opening ceremony.
I did not see it.
They were the band that played, a ferocious band.
Are they young?
Now they're in their late 30s, but when we first met them, we played with them in Norway at a festival there, and incredible drummer and really unique, very heavy. You would like Gojira. Talk about workout music. That's yeah.
And isn't it strange how these guys probably don't speak English, but yet you all communicate on
They're
the same
French.
level?
Well, yeah.
When you're playing this kind of music, it's like it's its own language of its own.
Sure, 100%. Yeah, and it's fun. It's like for a long time it was like a best kept secret. All this kind of underground music, and we all kind of knew each other. And there's a lot of bands that are also that have been around for as long as us that are enjoying the most success now. We're sort of not nostalgic, but sort of, I don't know what they would call it. Legacy bands, we're kind of like a legacy, there's probably a dozen bands that we can just go on tour and whenever we want. That's really nice. We haven't made a record in 15 years. So to be able to do all these tours, we're very blessed and lucky to, to be in that those records that we made 35 years ago still matter to brand new people today.
Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's crazy.
Now, you're still writing, you mentioned in the green room. But are you writing for Atheist or are you writing for your own stuff?
During COVID, I was stuck at home, and Thor was like, my little boy was only like 4, and so I got a little studio set up, and I wrote like 26 songs. I did all the drums and the bass and everything, and they ended up getting signed to Nuclear Blast, which is probably the biggest metal label in the world. So and that band was called Till the Dirt, and that was just my sitting there at home, not being able to go out, having a couple drinks at home, and writing music was kind of a new experience.
So let's just back up for a second for the audience. So you were able to create music during COVID, and then you sold that music. You got
got it signed. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, and the guy that signed Slipknot and all that. So it was really cool. I didn't mean to do it, and I was just writing, and it was fun. It was almost like when you can't go anywhere, and you don't. And I've been smoking for 30 years, so in my mind, part of it was going, oh shit, this is it for me. You know what I mean? If it's a lung thing, and if I get a respiratory issue, I've been smoking, you know what I mean? All that early information was very skewed and nobody really knew. So in my mind, truthfully, I was like, oh God, I got to write as much music as I can.
Does smoking affect you today when you tour? Does it?
In high elevations, like South America's got a lot of high elevations. So, but it affects everybody. But of course, I mean, I wish that I didn't smoke, but it's also been like a huge songwriting partner and a huge friend and a stress reliever.
Drink,
oh yeah, Jaeger.
And that helps you.
I'm a Jaeger guy. Now the Jaeger, to me, I've turned a lot of bands onto it because if you drink Jack Daniels, it'll definitely dry out your vocals. Jaeger has like lots of herbs and
it's like cough medicine.
Yeah, I mean it kind of is. So I drink that with Red Bull, and that's my go-to drink. I have a couple of drinks before I go on.
So you have like a little routine.
Yeah, 100%. And now I got the guys in my band are all in their late 20s, early 30s, and so I got them drinking it as well before we go out. We do a shot, and it's just
so you surrounded yourself with a bunch of like ringers and hired guns.
No, not hired gun. They're my friends. Of course they're. I guess on the surface it looks like a hired gun, but I handpicked these guys to because they were able to play this music because it's difficult to play, and I think everything is moving at a really fast pace and stopping on a dime. And
do you guys have to go into a studio well before the tour, and you guys will rehearse? And
we go out to San Diego, and we just went out there recently. We've been writing for the last year in between. So our drummer lives in San Diego, one guitar player's in Phoenix, and the rest of us are on the East Coast. So we fly out to San Diego. He has a nice little studio that we rehearse in. He also records, when we're jamming and writing. And then to pay for it, we play a show in LA and San Diego. So that way everybody can fly.
And you go over the set list that you're going to do on this tour? Yeah. And how many songs would be in that set list? And who makes the set list?
We all do. Those guys, kind of, most of them kind of grew up with the music, and the music is older than they are.
So like, hey, Kelly, let's do this one.
Let's do this one, yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to do that, man. Yeah, so they're always trying to get me to do songs that I don't want to do because I wrote them when I was like 16. So it's almost like showing your school picture to a hot chick, like, check me out in 6th grade. It's like, no, I'd rather play stuff that's more, more interesting. But they've actually been right on more than one occasion on adding songs to the list, but probably between 15 and 19 songs.
Well, don't you realize that at this point it's about the fans, right? So like I want to be in a Van Halen tribute band, but nobody wants to hear Van Halen here, so I have to play. I play Donna Summer and I play dance stuff.
I got a guitar player for you.
You know what I'm saying? And I play the Gator Club, and we have a full dance crowd. So I have to concede that that's what I'm doing at that moment, right? But I dig all the AC/DC and all the Led Zeppelin and all that stuff. But
yeah. I mean, you've been doing this a while. Been doing this a while as well, and I mean, I think that Beyonce said something really interesting at the Grammys. People like to pigeonhole you into a category and tell you that's where you need to stay, and I don't think musically anybody needs to do that. I think everybody can make all different kinds. Neurotica was a very mainstream band. Now we were on the radio with that band on 85 stations in the country.
So tell us about Neurotica.
So
its inception and how it ended.
When our bass player got killed, we went on. Our drummer was a very smart guy, Steve Flynn. He quit and went to college. So I was left, going, I don't know what I'm going to do. And so I went on, started putting together this. I knew I was into like. I was getting into like singers, and I wasn't, I could sing, but in Atheist, I don't sing, I scream. So I wanted to sing. So I was putting together Neurotica in the early days, and it took about 4 years to get it going. And then, we played a lot around here and a lot in Tampa, and 98 Rock was instrumental in helping us, get out there. And then Brian Johnson came into what used to be the Monterey Deli on Main Street. A lot of Sarasota people will remember that place. It was an incredible little sandwich shop during the day, and at night they'd move the tables out of the way, and we would rock out in there.
So those listeners that don't necessarily know who Brian Johnson is, which is rare, he's the lead singer of AC/DC.
Yeah,
and he replaced Bon Scott.
I just assumed that he
came out with a monster record, that Back in Black album.
You might have heard of it, yeah.
Which I think at one point was the number one selling album in the world or something.
But yeah, I think it still sells over 1 million copies.
It's one of my favorite records of all time. If I had my top 10, Back in Black is one of those top 10.
Oh yeah, I can remember when it came out. I also like Let There Be Rock.
So he lives in Sarasota.
He does.
So to continue your story.
Yeah, so we're playing, and it's like 45 people there. It's just a small little, it's almost like a punk rock show, but we're playing our music, and we take a break. We used to play like 3 sets of original music, but just to span out the night. So we go up in the upstairs thing, and we're smoking a joint with the owner, and in walks Brian Johnson, and we were like, oh shit, we got to go. We got to go play now. We still had a 15-minute break, and I was like, no, we got to go. And I'm so glad we did, because it, changed my life. We went down and played, and he was literally right there where that camera is. Like, we were just like, and going for it. And he bought us a round of beers, and we got a call a couple days later and said, hey, come to the studio. There's another guy named Doug Kay that was very successful here in town, and he and Brian were friends.
Was it a studio in this area?
Doug,
we said come to the studio. Was it like a Tampa studio, Sarasota? Or is it Bay Sound?
It's over here on 17th.
Yeah, that's where I go, Bay Sound.
Oh, okay.
I think it was called something else before.
Yeah, it was called Paradox.
Yeah.
Paradox Studios.
A different owner.
Yeah, Jeff Buckley went there one time. Like, I
love the
Jeff
Allmans used to go there.
Yeah. I think they're the ones that initially put it together.
Yeah.
And then Bud Snyder
he's still there.
I think he's back there now.
Bud's still there.
He is still there.
I just saw him last week.
Bless his heart, man.
He's a great guy. I'm going to get him on the show.
Yeah, I worked with him on one of my side bands. Love that guy, and I'm so glad he's still here, because I hadn't heard much about him.
He had heart surgery, and he was successsul.
Good.
So he told me he
science.
He feels great. I mean, he was smiling. I never saw him smile before.
Yeah, he engineered a project for me that was great, and we had a good time. And so yeah, that studio, they said come over there, and next thing you know, we gave him an example of our demo. We gave it to Brian that night, and so he went back and listened to this one song in particular. Was called Two Worlds, and he was in the middle of writing a Broadway play, but he can't play guitar or anything, so he mouths everything out to good musicians. And so that's what he did. And so this song in particular reminded him of that vibe. And next thing you know, he was like, Kelly, my son, we're going to fucking produce your record. I got to fucking, and he, one of the first things he did was take one of our songs that the first time I ever let anybody kind of fuck with, somebody that wasn't a part of the band, the first thing he said was, you should start the song with the chorus. And it's a song called Easy Speak. And it's a great song, but we were like slow getting into it. It was like a minute before it got to the business. And he was like, no, you got to get right to the fucking chorus, get right there.
He's a radio guy. He's shit on the radio.
Man, we did. And he let us use he had the Everly Brothers guitar that they did, Wake Up Little Susie.
No shit.
And he let us use that for the acoustic thing. So he's just a tremendous guy. We go to his house, and so next thing you know, he's producing a record, and I'm doing vocals, looking through the glass, and there he is, the icon of all icons, and tremendous experience. And then
so that record came out. How many songs were on that record?
So it did. It came out on. It was 10. Yeah, 10 songs. It was full length. But the funny thing about it, do you remember K-Tel?
Yeah.
So K-Tel was like, everybody knows K-Tel, was late night commercials. So they had a record label for decades. So we signed a deal, and that was the distributor for our first record. And what happened was Brian, once we brought 98 Rock in. Bubba the Love Sponge used to have a morning show.
Yeah.
So he tells Bubba to come down with Cowhead at the time. Cowhead was on his show,
right.
Mike Calta. And they brought him down to the studio, played it for him. And Bubba stole the CD, played it on the radio the next morning, and the phones lit up and everything. It's just like the old famous stories you hear about, and it was happening to us. And I was like, holy shit. So the record wasn't done. So Brian calls Bryan Adams.
The Bryan Adams?
The Bryan Adams. He owns a studio in Vancouver. And he calls Mike Frazier, who's the guy that did Aerosmith Pump and Metallica's Load and Reload. Everybody, they go into the studio. They go off into the studio to mix Easy Speak, this song, and or mix the rest of the record because this song was already mixed and done. So yeah, and I didn't even get to go. I didn't get like that was also a very weird thing to not be in on a mix of a record that were my children, you know. And it's like
Right.
somebody was going to dress my children, but when it came back, it was incredible, and we were just so proud of it.
Do you remember the first time you heard it when it came back?
Yep, I heard it in that studio.
Thought, like your thoughts.
I just felt like a real singer for the first time, you know. I mean,
like
my
floored,
whole just the things that they did to make it sound so professional and so good, loud, and you know, just as pro as it get. Mike Frazier he didn't even let Brian Johnson in the room when he was mixing, and he mixes everything at a really, really low volume until the end. He never once turns it up for a whole record. And Brian was just like, you know, I want to hear it. I can't hear it really, really low. And then when it's all over, he let Brian come in and hear it. And then obviously they brought it back to Florida, and then off we went. And then the radio station started picking that up, 85 stations. And then KTEL went bankrupt. And so nobody could find our record.
Like the original master part.
The distribution, you know, so you have, when your record's coming out, you want record stores, it's
Right.
got to be in the stores. And so they were responsible for that. And they went bankrupt literally while we had 85 stations, which was a hit song. I mean, that's a hit. If the records had been there, because people were like, where can I get that song? Every radio interview that we did, they were like, you know, people are calling, I can't find the record. And it was heartbreaking, man. And I was like, shit. So then, you know, we toured a little bit for that record, and then we went in and made another record. And then we ended up getting signed to, we went out and played the Viper Room in LA. And we played for DreamWorks. We played for a lot of labels. It was something that you'll appreciate, like an afternoon. Essentially, you're auditioning for just label people, and you only got like 18 to 20 minutes. And it's a bunch of guys that are staring at their watches, and, you know, and you're in LA, and it's like, oh, we got shit to do. So we played, and one of the guys that was there ended up being part of this brand new label that Vince McMahon and the WWE were going to get into the music business. Because they were playing bands like Drowning Pool on their programming, but they weren't making any of the money. And so the smart thing for them to do was to create this music companies. And they got the guy from Sony to come in and be the head guy, and yada, yada. So next thing you know, we found ourselves in a whole nother level of greatness. And
so this was the second album.
Yeah, and Brian had gone on to get back on the road with AC/DC, so we kind of did this one without him. We did it with Kevin Shirley, who was a guy that did Black Crowes and Silverchair.
I love Black Crowes.
And Maiden. Kevin Shirley's the guy who does all the new Maiden stuff, and he's an Australian guy, tremendous producer. And we did it at the Hit Factory in New York, which is where John Lennon recorded Imagine. And so I just sat in there. I used to just sit in there.
How cool is your life, dude?
It's just, I wish I could remember.
You got to write a book.
When you have a conversation like this, it brings the memories up, you know? And so a lot of times I don't remember this until somebody goes, yeah, what about this? And I think, oh shit. And then it all comes back to me, you know? But
now, were you living the rock star lifestyle at the time? Like,
No.
man, with like the women and
no, the money's never been there, you know? The money, the millions of dollars has never been there, you know? But I never, to play music and make a living, only in the last maybe 10 years is where it's become really possible. The rest is a sacrifice that, you know, all bands go through. I mean, it's expensive to tour, you know? So we get to be a part of a grand lifestyle, but when you come home, you're still in your 2-bedroom condo. And then I had kids at 38. After all that shit, I had a daughter and then obviously a son after that. So that creates an even more difficult scenario. Sure. But fortunately, I've been with both of the mothers were Kayla, who you know, my ex.
I know her dad.
Yeah, and
Marty.
So Marty, yeah,
Great guy. Marty.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Is he still over at that? What's the name of that bar? We still play
Brady's.
5 o'clock club. Changed the name
to Brady's. Yeah. And Kayla's still there as well.
Nice little neighborhood place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us about your place though. Your old bar.
Yeah, it was called Kelly's Live, and it was in a place that is known here in town as just a shithole, the Cabana, and it has it's a kitschy kind of motel.
Is it still there now?
Somebody's fixing it up now. It looks like it, but it's been empty since probably 5 years.
Because you're right. Right around her are these like low, like the apartments,
motels. No, it's a motel in the old sense of old school Florida motel, man, where you can pull your car right up to the front door, you know. And so, and it's, I mean, like, so Danny, what was the guy's name? The guy that killed those girls in college in Florida State, Danny Rawlings. Yeah, Danny. Do you ever heard that story about in the 80s, there was a serial killer.
Oh, Christ.
He came down and stayed in the Cabana,
Jesus.
And it's in his book and everything. So it's one of those motels that's like people have died, lots of people have OD'd in there. Shit, yeah. It's one of the few places in Sarasota that I'm surprised that Sarasota allows it because it's so fancy around here. right in the middle of town too, right on 41. There it is. And so anyway, I was bartending there. Another person owned it, and they kind of shit the bed, and I was able to. The owner was like, "Well, you take it over." I said, "Well, all right, can I change your name?" I said, "Because I played music in this town, I can do some good things." And so we lit that place on fire, and it was amazing. When we were packing it out and bringing bands
people
to town,
this day tell stories about the old
so
bands.
much fun, and it was just it had a pool, but the pool water was green.
Yeah,
it
was a little garden.
It was
like
a dive
little,
bar, and I so my slogan was "Embrace the dive," and that was on the back of the shirt. And so I mean, a lot of times the air conditioning didn't work, but everybody had a great time, and that was fun. That went down for about 2 years, and then we had a problem with the owner, and then we moved it downtown to that place, the Sarasota Sky Bar, which was the playground sound.
I remember.
And so we were there for about a year.
Twinkle used to play there.
Yep. Yeah. And I was booking all the bands and all that, and Kayla was bartending, and so that's.
And then you went over to the 5 o'clock club, and you were booking there.
Yep. Yeah, I was there until the owner decided to not do live music anymore. So I was right around COVID.
So now I'm going to tell my little story. So I credit you. You were the first one that gave Jack Up their first break. You know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you gave us a gig. You didn't even know who the hell we were. You never even probably heard us. But, I was probably bugging you, because that's the way I am. And you gave us our first show at the 5 o'clock club.
Very nice.
And I'll never forget that.
Cool.
And that was like 7 years ago, dude.
Well, I always remember. I mean, any band called Jacked Up, I'm around here, especially come on.
You came and saw us, and you gave us pointers and stuff
Yeah.
like that. You gave us some advice. And
Rock band.
You had a sound person that was in house and doing the sound, Christy,
yeah.
and then we started playing other places because of that.
Cool.
So thank you.
Oh my, yeah. I mean, I just, I think this town should have more live music, more of a venue,
more for original acts too.
That's what I mean.
There's no home for original acts.
A venue will allow original music. A regular bar is
and
just
something for the kids too. Have a kids night. Let the kids jam.
Yeah, I mean, I did. I did. 18 and up shows at that place, but I got a lot of grief for that because but we were checking. We never had any incidents, but I mean, it was a very interesting place, and it was fun, and I wish I could still do it. If there's any investors out there that want to make a really great venue in this town,
where would you want to put it? Because I think, I learned
probably
from
out
the
east
club, and I learned about the Main Street people that are fighting. The high-rise folks. I don't think I would want to have a club anywhere near there. Why deal with that bullshit?
Yeah, you don't need to. People, it's not that this town isn't that big, so end to end is only 12 miles or so.
But get out of the city limits.
Yeah, get out of there, move out east a little bit where you can make a little bit of noise, or get into a shopping center.
Yeah.
Kind of situation. A lot of venues we play around the country are in shopping centers because they probably went through the same shit.
Because at nighttime, most of the stores are closed and there's plenty of ample parking.
Tons of parking. Yeah, so it's the perfect place.
Like Joyland. Joyland's a great example.
Yep.
The new Joyland.
Yeah, the new Joyland. And it's tremendous in there. When you look at it outside, it looks like a storefront. You go inside and they got a great stage. And
Chuck Reedy was on the show and he's the manager.
I've known Chuck since we were kids.
Chuck knows everybody. Do you know Billy Rice?
Oh, gosh. Billy Rice.
He's another guy that's been in Sarasota for
I've known Chuck since, literally we were 15 years old. He had a band called Steel Angel.
That's right.
And they were around the same time as rap when Atheist was coming up. And so.
Mark Borgmeyer, you know Mark?
Yeah. Borgie was one of the very first musicians I met.
I just saw him play at Stottlemyre.
He's with Crimson Glory now. And they're going to Europe.
Okay, that's how I know the name.
Yeah, they're going to Europe as well. They're headlining festivals over there this spring.
So he's doing his cover band down here.
Yeah,
his Lost Boys.
Yeah.
And then he goes over to Germany and does the originals.
Yeah, they're going to Greece as well, and Greece is tremendous. Like we went over there and played, and the fans there are just unbelievable. And the food, that's another great thing. At my age now, at 56, a lot of the fun for me is like the cultures and the different meals. And
it must be cool to walk into a tavern in Germany and drink German beer, and that must be kind of neat, huh?
Oh yeah, well, also Holland. A lot of the band that we toured with in Europe last year, the same band that we're going to South America with, their singer's really into craft beers. So everywhere we go, he's always finding all the good. I'm still just a Jaeger guy.
whatever city you're in, like try to embrace the cultures, like the food? Do you like to sample some of the art?
Oh, I want no. There's just not a lot
like,
of time. A lot of times, I mean, you roll into town at 4:00 if you're lucky. You get there on time, and then you do a sound check, and then you gotta. Also, you're tired because you stayed up late the night before, and so we were 28 of us on a bus. It was a huge double-decker European bus.
That's
so
a lot of people.
It's a lot of from.
Well, there's a bathroom on that bus.
Oh yeah, several. Yeah, it was 2. but they're huge buses. I mean, the whole upstairs is all the bunks, and so and then there's a lounge in the back, and then you go downstairs, and there's plenty of seats and all that, and then there's a front area where the drivers sleep. So there's 2 drivers. And they were both from Poland, and they would take turns driving so that we never had to stop. And so and that was an interesting thing because we had a band from Hungary, a band from Canada, French Canadian, and I think a New York band, and then us. So
what are some of the conversations on that bus at night when you guys are rolling around? It must be interesting.
Well,
all these artists on the same bus, different cultures.
Yeah, and you don't know each other at all. Like people know of us, but they've never met us, and so everybody has a preconception of like what it's going to be like. But once you're on a bus together, you better make friends quick. Because you're sharing air.
Is somebody pulling out a guitar and singing along, and maybe people are collaborating to some degree?
No, that's the last kind of thing they have. Lots of drinking, lots of storytelling, lots of jokes, lots of.
Is it all men?
Yeah, I think. We've had female tour managers. On that particular tour was a really great guy from Poland who was no nonsense, and you could barely get a smile or a compliment out of him. And he was a tremendous. He was a tour manager and the sound front of house.
It's all business.
And that guy was just money every time. I have so much respect for the work ethic of Polish people and Germans. Like, it's another thing you learn about. This is why in America I feel like it's really important that people travel. Because we get so caught up in being we're Americans. So when you get out and you see how the rest of the world rolls, like you might not feel quite as chest beating about the thing. We have some work to do in America in terms of work ethic and discipline. There's a lot of really hardworking people in America, but there's a lot of lazy people, and I find that in Germany there's just a current of hardworking people, Polish as well. Just I can't explain it, but there's just you can always count on them. This guy ran sound for us every night, and it was just flawless. And I hate doing sound check, so our bass player a lot of times will check my mic for me because for me to get out and perform, it's almost like a fight. And so I don't want to go out and pretend fight. I just want to go fight.
So that's a great question. What's your pregame ritual? Like, let's say, for example, the crowd's out there chanting. Yeah. You're backstage. You're about to come on. What are you doing? You doing push-ups?
No, I'm doing a shot.
Stretching your vocal cords. You doing a shot, like you said, maybe having a smoke?
Yeah, having a smoke.
Okay. You're getting kind of worked up a little bit?
Yeah, I let the rest of the band walk out on stage before me. And that makes me happy because when they walk out on stage, everybody cheers, and it makes me happy for them. And then I walk out once the song is starting. And so it's kind of like, there's no moment for me to think about it. It's literally like getting in a fight with a bunch of people. Do you sometimes
get nervous still?
Every single time. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that really helps, because it's terrifying to walk out in front of 1,000 or 10, 20,000 people. It's especially in an outdoor sunny day, you can see everybody's face. And when you're the singer, you can't hide behind the drums. You can't.
Everybody's staring at you, bro.
Yeah, it's like
everybody,
and you can see all their faces.
Are you wearing sunglasses?
No, with Neurotica, I used to always wear sunglasses on stage because I did not want to catch anybody talking or making fun of me. And you know what I mean? That's how I felt. I felt really insecure as a singer, and I was.
See, a lot of people don't know that. They just assume that you're the alpha guy, like look at me. No, but you're just a human guy that has emotions. And
the same scared shit that you would feel if you walked out there. Now, the best thing is that once you go out and you start we give and then they give, and then once it gets, what I'm saying,
in football, the first hit, man.
Even in a small club, it's that way. The first hit in a game, everybody goes, all right, shit, we're in the game, we're in the game. This isn't practice anymore. And there really is just a different level of anxiety that goes with that.
And then there's that point during the show when everybody's loving everybody, like your bandmates are all grooving. Yeah. You're looking around and you're all on the same page, and the audience is rocking. We just did a show recently.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
That's all right. First Friday on Main Street in Lakewood Ranch.
Oh, that's nice.
A couple thousand people.
Lots of people, yeah.
And we would go on 6, and it was they don't know what to expect. So the people are sitting in their chairs watching us the first couple songs. And then they realized, okay, we're good, and we're going to entertain you. Then they started loosening up. Then they stood up. Now they're starting to come to the dance floor.
Yeah.
Now more people are coming from the sides.
And that fills you with
now
energy.
the tip jars starting to get money. Like, so now ice was broken.
Yeah.
Now I can start saying funny things on the mic, and introducing the band.
It's not unlike going out on a first date. You don't know how the fucking date's going to go. Am I going to say the right thing? We're going to go to the right place. And then once you're kind of mid-date and everything's going well, you're like, all right, now I can relax and kind of, so I feel really like relaxed once I get up there. But there's that anxiety, that half an hour, 20 minutes before. But I've found over the last couple of years that now I've done it so long and so many different scenarios. And, we were playing in Mexico one time and our bass player fell through an 8-foot stage, through.
That could be a lawsuit.
He broke his bass and everything. We were playing with a band called Armored Saint, and it was a festival, and the kids had waited. It was the first time we played in Mexico ever, and these kids were freaking out that the show was going to be over. And so the bass player, it was such a high stage that he fell down. There's a video of it as well, because he was like rocking out, and he went up and he stomped his feet and he just went like a cartoon, like whoop, these planks of wood, and he went down and he climbed all the way into the stage, came out from behind, borrowed a bass, and came back out.
Good for him.
But for like 2 minutes, I was like,
yeah, is he dead?
Fuck. Well, no, I was terrified because that was a moment like when you're going out on stage, once you get out there and everything's grooving, everything's great, but when something happens like that, when you're the singer guy and you've got to figure out how to keep everybody,
that happens to all bands, dude.
Oh, it sucks.
Like sometimes your mic might cut out on you, or like some shit falls down, like what the fuck?
Yeah, and everybody looks at you, So yeah, that's still a thing, I don't think you ever really kind of get over that. But
is there a point during the show where you address the audience and you talk to the audience
all the time? Yeah.
And do you try to maybe say something to them in their own language, like hello or thank you, or do you always in English?
No. I'll usually say like people will teach me, and if I can remember in the middle of being in a fight, as in my mind is all over the place, I try really really hard to remember the, some phrase that they'll recognize, and whether it's make some noise or how you feeling, something to connect with them. But they're so used to American bands not doing that. And bless the hearts of the rest of the people around the world for learning 2 and 3 languages. Well,
I think Mick Jagger always did that. I always see videos of Mick Jagger whenever he went to a different country, and he's probably been to every country on the planet. Oh, yeah. He would always try to say hello or thank you or like in that language.
Yeah, I think that's a cool thing. I'm sure that they appreciate that. I just the last thing you want to do is say it wrong.
Yeah, right.
So when we were in Mexico, our bass player is Mexican, and he was born down there. And he was like, just when we had this song called Unholy War, and it's super fast. And he's like, before that song, just say rapido, rapido, and see what happens. And I was like, okay. And I remembered, and I said, do you want to go rapido? And I was like, rapido, let's go.
That's cool.
It was really fast, and so it's fun. Yeah, I try. I'm not for all the traveling I've done, I should probably be a little better at speaking a number of different languages, but I'm not.
So you do your last song of the night. The place is going crazy, right?
Yeah.
You have to leave because maybe there's another band coming on after you. Is it what? You just go right to the bus and get out of there, or do you get to hang out a little bit?
There's usually a bus call. So like you get up in the morning on a tour, and you have the tour manager has like, here's what time dinner is, here's lunch, here's where we are, here's what's around here. Like if you have a good tour manager, you have this like itinerary on the refrigerator of the bus, and everybody goes and wakes up from however their night was the night before of getting trashed or just being tired, and then you kind of figure out where you're at. Like we just played in Venice, Italy, and I was really, really tired. And the rest of the guys are like, we're going to, let's go down to the gondolas and all that. And it was raining, it was cold. I was like, fuck, I don't want. And they're like, dude, we're in Venice, Italy. And I was like, all right, I'll go. So we had to get on a bus, 2 bus rides to get to this thing, which was, I talked myself out of it in the very beginning, but man, I'll never thank them enough for making me go, because it was this incredible experience, and narrow walkways through Venice, Italy, and it was just like I'd imagined, with the guys on the boat and ducking under the bridge, and just that culture. And we had some really good Italian food, like right in Venice, Italy. And then the next day we played in Rome, and they wanted me to go to the stadium. And I was like, well, I'm going to have to skip that one. So I didn't even go to the stadium. So I should appreciate those things a little bit more.
Well, look, you know what you guys.
I'm old, man.
I'm old too, bro. I have to go to sleep after the show, man. I'm not going out.
No, I like to after the show. There's usually maybe one band if we're not headlining. There's one band after us, and go back and get changed because you're sweaty, and then go back out and meet the people.
Do you try to like take vitamins? You try to like stretch.
Yeah, I
drink water. Like, do you try to do like the basic stuff?
Yeah, throat coat. I mean, I'll drink some tea. You know, I mean, tea is always a good. Throat coat is just amazing for singers. Any singer out there, that it's a tea you can get anywhere, but it's called throat coat, and it's magic. And Ozzy's the first person I ever saw drink it, and it was at a catering on Ozfest. And Ozfest was incredible because we were in these amphitheaters, and so there was like a school lunchroom every day, and so you go in to get lunch. You know, a tour manager will be like, "Hey, it's lunch," and you go in there, and it's Robert from Metallica, or he was playing with Ozzy at that point.
Sure.
Rob Zombie, System of a Down. Everybody's sitting around like a school lunchroom, but the coolest fucking lunchroom you've ever been in.
Sure,
you know?
sure.
And Zach Wilde, you know, was always at the and you're in line, you know, like almost like a buffet. You know, you're filling up your plate and like, oh, hey, Zach Wilde, what's up? You know, and you kind of get used to it after 2.5 months.
So here's another question. So someone like you that meets a lot of famous people, like you can't be like, hey, Ozzy, can I get a picture with you or not? Like you have to be. Yeah, I don't. You got to stay cool.
Yeah,
you know and even though maybe inside you're like, holy fuck, it's Zach Wilde. You got to kind of like, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, they don't, you know, I've never gotten out. People always ask me, can you get Brian Johnson's autograph? I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that to him.
Right.
You know, I've eaten at this man's house. I've drank in his bar, you know, in his house. I'm not going to say,
you can't be starstruck.
Can you sign this?
But there's probably people that are starstruck when they see you too, though. So you got some of that going the other way.
No, I'm available for all those people. You know, I mean, we do meet and greets all the time, and you know, there are bands out there that charge people for meet and greets. We never do that.
So explain that. So are you at a table and people can come by and like, what do you post for a picture?
Yeah.
Or you sell merch? Is that how that works?
No picture, or they can bring all their albums. You know, that's what they do typically. I mean, I've had a guy bring in probably, we were playing somewhere it was in Poland. And because we don't play there very often, this guy he had every version of each record that we had, like the original press, the American press. He brought all the vinyl. He had it all in vinyl. And I sat in a booth like this with him and just sat and signed every single one of them for him. Then I made the rest of the guys.
Is there a translator at that point?
No, because they're, again, you know, even in Poland, they speak English.
Okay.
Yeah, it's amazing that English is just universal.
You just made that guy's life by sending those records, man.
He couldn't have been more happy, and I couldn't have been more grateful. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and I want them to understand that. Like, it's important to me to play in a band full of people like that as well. Cool. That I don't ever want to see. Ronnie James Dio is the person who I learned from. I met him in 1991 in LA. And he was the nicest person I've ever met in this business. You know, I mean, he immediately, we went to meet him. I said, hey, my name's Kelly. And then he met my drummer, Steve. And he said, hey, Kelly. And then he said, hey, Steve. And we talked for about 5 minutes. And then before we left, he goes, hey, Kelly, Steve, have a great night. And I just that moment right there was, I can't believe you fucking remembered. Right. He's Ronnie James Dio.
Right.
You know, and then I read stories about how he became such a nice guy because Richie Blackmore was such a jerk. And Richie Blackmore used to blow people off for autographs all the time. Like, I'm not fucking signing it. And I was like, I don't ever want to be like that. So I want to always be like Dio. I'll sign whatever you got, whenever you want. And a lot of times, and you know, promoters are so used to other bands not wanting to do that they'll try to, you know, if we get out of a van to go in a hotel and there's kids waiting to get things signed, they'll be like, no. I'm like, no. I'll go over there. The rest of you guys can go. I'll go sign that shit. You know.
And you don't have to have security. Like, you're not afraid. Maybe like you're in a crowd of
no.
You know,
that's my people.
All right.
Yeah, quite the contrary, really. I mean, metalheads are scary looking, but some of the sweetest people you ever, like 6'5", crazy looking dude with hair down to his ass and a beard is just as sweet as could be. You know, can I get a picture? Like, can I get a picture? Mountain of a man, let's go. You know, and so it's fun just to. And I'm not the guy that hides on the bus. I like to go out and meet people, but obviously I've developed relationships over the 3.5 decades. So some people that I met when I was a teenager still come to our shows today, and so before I get to those towns, I reach out to those people and say, hey, come on, we have lunch and hang out. And so I've developed these unique relationships with people. And
yeah, you know a lot of people, don't you?
A lot, yeah. And
I mean, not just here in the States, but you know.
Oh no, around the world, yeah. I mean, in Italy, you know, tons of people that have followed the band. Yeah, they've been following the band since the late 80s.
Are there more tours lined up? Like, are you going to be keeping on the road in 2025? Or?
Yeah. So we're doing South America here, and then we come back and we do a U.S. tour. It starts in L.A. on April 22nd.
Any Florida dates?
Yep, Orlando.
Oh, we're gonna have to try to
yeah, let me know. Put it on the list.
That'd be cool.
And then we get done the 22nd of May, and it ends in LA, and we've got to go to Japan and play on the 31st. So we're gonna hang out in LA and do some writing for 7 days instead of flying all the way home and then flying all the way back because it's 22 hours.
Do your bandmates
to Australia and Japan?
Like, everybody has a family, but do they have like other jobs too? Where like,
yeah.
And they're able to say, okay, I'm going over to Japan.
Yeah, I did too for years. I was a bartender.
So you're able to
that
get
was
away.
the perfect thing for me when I'm not touring. because yeah, I mean, there's gaps, and where if you're working on a record, if you're not on the road for 6 months, yeah, you gotta, and we're not, we don't make Metallica money, so yeah, you gotta supplement the
income. And then what's it like when you have a child and you say, hey, daddy's going on the road for work? And are you able to go? Are you able to bring him to some of your shows?
He's been to one show. We played the Brass Mug in Tampa, and I have a great picture of me. I brought him up on stage, and that was great. My daughter, she's 19 now, but she has autism, so that would scare the shit out of her if she ever came and saw that. Like, that setting when everybody yelling. But
do they know that their father's a rock star? Like, they know that? Like.
Yeah, I mean, I show them.
Travel as part of the gig.
But the cool thing about kids are is they always keep you humble. So there's never it's never like I think Thor is 8 now, so he's starting to get it. Like I show him videos and he's like, wow. So I think when he's like 10 or 11, he'll really. I wish I could take him because most of the day that we spend on tour is just sitting around.
Would you encourage your son to become a musician?
Yeah. Oh man, music. I was a really, outcast kid. I got bullied a lot, man. Music really just was my best friend. Playing guitar was the smartest thing I ever did in my life. This town and this state, football is king. Sports, athletics in Florida, be it baseball, whatever it is. When you're in high school, if you're not playing sports and you're fucking on the outside. And so guitar for me was my way of not needing anybody. I don't need anyone else. I could sit in my room, play guitar and learn how to play songs. And that made me so happy. And there was nobody around to bully me. And then, years later playing large radio festivals, and I'd see those guys that were really great in high school at football. And now their knees are all fucked up and they're, they're working, doing drywall or something really hard, and where they thought they were going to be a superstar football player. And so I always, and props to them for doing the athletics. And I just think that, guitar is something that never leaves you. Music never leaves you. If you put whatever you put into it, you're going to get out of it.
When you're writing, are you using a guitar or a piano?
Guitar.
To help you?
I wish I could play piano.
Well, sometimes you can just.
Oh, I can find my way around, but I wish that I could kill it, because I envy people that can play piano like that, because a lot of it is you're playing rhythm with one hand and lead with another. So two different things completely with your brain.
Do you have a lot of finished songs right now that you could actually put a record together right now?
Oh yeah,
maybe
two or three different kinds of records. Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah. I mean, when I have everything I put on a hard drive, and as you get older, you got to have realistic talks with your family and say, listen, if something happens to me, make sure that this goes to Thor, you know what I mean? And maybe 20 years from now, I've got all the sessions in the studio,
that's cool.
All the stems. And so, if he ends up being a guitar player, and, because I'm an older dad, he's 8, I'm 56. So I wrote a song called I Want to Watch You Grow Old, which was about that very thing. Like, I don't know that I'll get to see him get married, have children and all that. It's one of the downsides of being an older dad, but I just love being a father. I wish I would have done it a little sooner, but I never would have been able to play music if I had been a father at 22.
Do you think that you're still evolving as a musician?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Still learning, still growing.
And also devolving at the same time.
Explain
that. So I used to be really good at, so there's certain, like with Atheist, I have to be in that mode. It's fast. It's stopping all the time. There's probably 11 riffs in every song.
It's a physical performance, right?
Yeah. So the writing of that, you have to really check yourself to make sure you're still writing shit that's that edgy. And then once that's over with, the other band that I mentioned, Till the Dirt, that whole thing, because I was having drinks, I'd never written music and alcohol at the same time. And I know it sounds, not the greatest message to send kids, but I would start a song at like 7, and by 10:30, I was feeling good. I was feeling brave. So I would try things vocally that I would normally never try. And so I was combining singing and screaming. So I ended up inadvertently finding this whole other part of me that was like, and it was faster and angrier and really cool. But then to go back to writing, I have another friend named Beazle that we play together all the time. We kind of write rock songs. And so you just got to really be able to shift your gears. And so the devolving sometimes appears when I try to go from the rock world back into really fast. I got to really be disciplined. I got to sit down and practice. And, because, you're talking about 190 to 220 beats per minute, triplet picking, things like it's
exhausting.
It's challenging. Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Even James Hetfield from Metallica he had a show recently where he broke down and almost started crying. He was just like, he's one of the greatest down pickers. Anybody who plays guitar knows what I'm talking about. There's people that go ding, ding, ding. He is, gung, 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 and it's really, really hard.
Well, Some Kind of Monster was a documentary that a lot of people were exposed to their writing process.
He's one of the greatest rhythm players in the game. And he's finding himself at 63 now going, shit. I can't.
So is it safe to say that you still have a lot of really excellent stuff to come to produce?
Yeah. I mean, I get to play in a band with young, talented, beautiful kids that are amazing. I mean, our bass player is tremendous. He's, I think, 29 now, and drummer's 32. Guitar player, Jerry, who I found on YouTube when he was about 14 years old, and stayed with him, followed him. And then when it came time to have another guitar player, he's 26 now, I think he is. But I mean, just young and vibrant and they're fire. So they make it fun for me. It's almost like it's brand new again.
Well, excellent. So final thoughts, right?
Yeah.
So everybody has a support circle. Or anyone you want to give a shout out to? People that have helped you along your way. You mentioned Brian Johnson. People that have been important to the Kelly, Shaefer.
Yeah, I my wife Kayla, has been a tremendous support. I mean, we're moving on. We're actually getting a divorce, but we're really great friends. And she was just really important. You have to have a woman in your life that allows you to go off and do that, especially at my age, because a lot of people would look at that and say, grow up, buddy. But she recognized the fact that, wow, you're going to go around the world and people still want to hear this music. So, yeah, I'll hold it down for you.
You still have buddies? Like, I have my high school buddies that I still converse with. Like Super Bowl Sunday, where we're all texting each other. These are guys from high school. Mm-hmm. We stayed in touch, but that's my support circle.
Oh, no. Yeah, I have my friend Beazle Levante is a great, great friend who's super supportive. I have a large group of guys in this town that, they've always supported me and propped me up. And my mom, huge supporter. She's 80 now, but she used to go to all the shows. And and she just loved it. And so I, a large list of people that I, owe so much to. A lot of people in the industry, too, that wrote about this band, because Atheist was a very weird band. So it took a lot of writers to kind of, point out, hey, this is a good band. You just don't understand it. It took a long time for people to understand those records. And so when we went away for 17 years and came back, the metal audience was smarter, and they were more into challenging stuff. So,
and as you mentioned earlier, that was a wonderful feeling for you to go back there, not knowing what you were getting into, and to have that kind of love and support.
Blew my mind, man. Yeah. I mean, blew my mind.
That's worth it, right? That's
60,000 people is a lot. That's a lot of energy. And, 40,000 even. I mean, anything beyond 10,000 people is a party. I mean, it's a. So,
now, can people converse with you? Can people find you on the internet? Can people send you fan mail?
I've always answered all of them.
Is your Facebook something that is accessible?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I answer all the mail and always have for years. And
so it's Kelly R. Shaefer.
Yeah, that's my Facebook.
And then
Kelly Shaefer at Gmail.
And then there's a website, obviously.
Yeah, I'm easy to find, man. And
Atheist Band.
Atheist Band. We had to call it Atheist Band, hashtag Atheist Band, because if you type in atheist normally in Google, all you're going to get is religious propaganda. So that's why it says Atheist Band,
right? Which
I hate it because it makes it sound like a country band. The good old Atheist Band, coming in there to play some of that devil music. No, but we were talking about Sarasota being so conservative in terms of their entertainment sort of, to have a band like us come from such a beachy town. That's the topic of discussion when I do interviews around the world. They're always like, so you come from a beach town, you don't sound like, a beach band, and I'm like, no, yeah, we definitely were outcast in this town. But, and so there wasn't any place for us to play. And a lot of times when I meet new people and they'll say, oh, you're in a band. I'll say, yeah. Do you play around here? No. And they go, well, why not? So it's a really awkward thing to say, well, we play around the world. They're like, what do you mean play around the world? So you can't really have a humble conversation about it. So it makes me uncomfortable. It's like, no, we don't play around here because there's nowhere to play around here.
So if any investors are listening to this show and they want to get
open a venue,
new Kelly's Live, right?
Yeah, man.
We'll put it in the shopping center.
It'll kill.
We'll have all types of music, man.
There is a large group of people sitting on their couch every Friday and Saturday that wish like hell there was a place.
What's funny too? I've met a lot of very weelthy men and women here, like wealthy, and I'm sure you have
too. There's a lot of money, yeah.
That would look to do an investment like this.
Yeah, I mean, I brought Sebastian Bach from Skid Row here. I brought, a lot of different bands. Bubba Sparks, hip hop. I had Afro Man here. I had, and then a lot of metal, a lot of rock bands. touring bands. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take that much of an investment it was really the liquor license. So somebody out there sitting on a liquor license, if you want to have, I mean, I'm telling you, there's 300-400 people just sitting around between Bradenton and Sarasota that need a place to go. And I have so many contacts with so many agents to bring in really great bands, not just, C-level bands or whatever that are out on tour. But let's talk about something. So now you're getting ready to play with Blue Oyster Cult, aren't you?
That's right. Thanks very much.
It's amazing. Yeah. I loved Blue Oyster Cult.
I love them too. So I grew up listening to Blue Oyster Cult, and I bought all their vinyl. And I'm actually going to interview Eric Bloom tomorrow.
Nice.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
The Jacked Up podcast with K-Rock is starting to take off, man.
That's going to be a great gig for you, man.
I'm enjoying this, man. I'm having fun with it.
Yeah, I mean...
so Eric Bloom, he's 80. And
wow.
I have some questions I'm going to ask him.
Holy shit.
But they're not your typical questions.
Yeah.
They're going to be questions like about, some of the experiences that I had listening to his music growing up and what he thought about when he was writing this stuff. Because if you look at his lyrics, he's very into sci-fi.
Yeah.
UFOs, extraterrestrials.
I write a lot about that shit as well. Unquestionable Presence is about aliens.
Yeah. So I'm a believer.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think very much that we're far from the only people in this galaxy. So yeah, I've written a lot of things about that and nature. We have an album called Elements, which is air, earth, water, mineral. That's the names of the songs, and so that was a difficult thing to write.
So here's a great closing question. Give us one song that you think that no one's ever heard Atheist before. One song that and there's a lot of songs, but one song that you would recommend to someone that's never heard the band to go out and listen to.
I would probably pick a more modern. We did a record in 2010 called Jupiter, and it had more modern production because these records that we're touring on right now were made in 1989, 90, 91, and recording has come so far. So it's that production level that's much better now in 2010 when we made that record. So there's a song called Second to Sun. It's the opening track.
Second to Sun?
Second to Sun, yeah.
Which is S-U-N?
Essentially Jupiter is the second largest planet next to the sun. And so that's what that is about. So it's a more modern, it's heavy as hell, but it's still crisp production. So the average layman person that's not into metal
very cool
would probably be able to stomach that for 4 minutes.
Well, fantastic. Well, with that, I want to thank you for coming in, Kelly.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
I enjoyed talking to
Thanks,
you.
Kurt.
And again, thank you for giving Jacked Up their first break.
Hey, man.
I'll never forget that.
Now look at you out there with Blue Oyster Cult. That's awesome. No, good for you, and I wish you the very best. You're a good man.
Thank you so much, man.
Thanks, Kurt.
You're a good
appreciate
guy.
you. Cheers.